Welcome to Still Surviving and Walking in Your Purpose. I'm Gigi Blackshear, your host. Our guest has an amazing story of what it means to go from silence to success. Please welcome Dr. Jordan Vosmik, Academic Dean of the Jacksonville Art Institute. Dr. Vosmik, welcome to our show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, Dr. Vosmik, please tell our audience, who is Jordan Vosmik and what is your survival story?
Okay. Right now, I am a campus leader. I teach courses in psychology. I've earned a PhD in psychology and cognitive development. I care for my mother. I have 2 children who are teens, 12 and 15. I've been separated from my husband about 9 months at my choice as part of my journey. And all of that sounds very good and very forward-looking, and I feel relatively comfortable sitting here and speaking to you right now. But I have to say that this is a very high-stress situation for me. It's manageable, because my journey is all about going from a place where, as a child, I was unable to speak to people. I had something that might be labeled these days selective mutism.
Not a medical condition.
Not exactly. What it means is I have an overactive inhibiting factor in my brain. So if you think about, all people have a balance between 2 neurological systems. One is like the gas and the other is like the brakes. So one tells you to go out into the world and take risks and try something and is looking for the reward of that kind of success. And then the other system is telling you to be careful, be cautious, hold back so you won't get hurt. Exactly. And all of us live with that, those 2 systems as kind of a balance.
And working together.
Exactly. But for me, I was unable to initiate action. So what it was like is I didn't go to school till 2nd grade, but when I did finally go into a traditional classroom, if the teacher asked a question and I knew the answer and wanted to contribute, I could feel it in my gut. Like I wanted to say something, but it was like stuck, and it would just be such a struggle, and then I never could. I couldn't get it out even though that was something I wanted to do. So it's not exactly the same thing as being shy. Something a little more complicated.
Another level.
Yes.
A deeper level.
Yes. And then I got very worried and anxious because I knew that if I did speak, it had been so long since I'd said anything that I was certain my voice would crack. And that was completely embarrassing, and that couldn't happen. So I just sat in silence, and I was quiet, and I said nothing for years.
For years? How many years?
There were course situations where I was comfortable enough to talk with my family at home. So that's why it's called selective, right? And a few friends.
Right.
But I was extremely unable to talk through 6th grade or so.
Oh my.
Yes.
Oh my.
And my teachers knew that about me, and they worked with me. But to do something like give a speech in front of the class, impossible. The situation of being like this on the spot with people looking at me or asking me for something would shut me down.
Oh my.
And so I just couldn't respond, and I would just stand there. I also couldn't deal with competition. So I did not like games of any sort, and because it was so stressful to think about the possibility of losing. And not exactly that I wanted to win. No, I didn't want to win. I didn't want to be in a situation where someone would tell me if I was good or bad.
You didn't want to be judged?
Something like that. It's too scary. It was too scary, too risky. And for example, when my 5th birthday party, I made my father promise that there would be no games at the birthday party. Can you imagine? 5-year-old birthday party.
A 5-year-old.
And he thought that he was being so clever, so he did some nice things, like he had a treasure hunt, and he had this little a race with paper turtles that you pulled with strings, and he thought that would be good. But I pitched such a fit.
Oh my.
I was a very effective fit pitcher. And that's just an example. And so this is all part of something that I've dealt with. But at the same time, it was as though I was of two minds, two people. I wanted to be a part of things, and I wanted to talk to people, and I had things to say. And I was a voracious reader. I read at a very early age.
How did you said that went on up until like 5th grade, 6th grade.
Yes, even before, but about 6th grade is when I started to take a turn for the better, to take things into my own hands.
How were you able to come out of that?
Well, the first thing I did was start to work with theater. I had a friend who did a summer program with theater, and so I had a little bit of an opportunity to try that. And you'd think that would be the absolute worst
thing. The last thing you want to do.
Except there was something about it, to be in a situation where you have lines, or that's really a very safe space because you're supposed to behave silly. Yes, exactly. Gave me some emotional room to try, right? And then when I was older, I went to Douglas Anderson School of the Arts here in Jacksonville for... at that point in time, the school went from 8th grade to 12th grade because it was one of the very first magnet schools here, and it was very new at the time. And a lot of the theater program had to do with things like improv, and it was just a consistent practice of getting words out of my mouth. And with enough practice, there was some desensitization that helped. And I think the main message, though, is that it was something that I wanted to change.
That you wanted to change.
I made the choice to go to that school when it was available to me. My parents were amazed, and it was very, very helpful.
Let me ask you about your parents, because listening to you talk about your dad and the great lengths that he went through for you to have a good birthday party, it sounds like they were really supportive of you.
They were.
And that they did not try to force you outside of what you were comfortable with.
They were pretty supportive in that way, yes, but it also just was impossible. I didn't go to school till 2nd grade.
You were homeschooled? Or you just...
Because I was so good at pitching fits. They started me in school, and it just didn't work.
Okay.
And so they were struggling to try to find a way to make things all right for me, and all I wanted to do was sit still, and have no one talk to me. But as you see, I've certainly come a long way.
You've come a very long way. The great thing is that you found something
Yes.
to bring you out, something to bring you out of your comfort zone, something that you enjoyed doing, and something that stretched you probably beyond your...
Yes.
Yeah.
And I never aspired to do theater in any professional way, but it was, I understood, a critical experience for me in just having a safe space to be able to express myself.
Having a safe space.
Yes, exactly.
I like that. I
Yes.
like that. So you were able to, through theater, you were able to really find your voice.
Yes.
And use your voice and express yourself.
Yes. And
one of the things you said that was powerful was that I wanted to. You had that desire on the inside.
yes.
You wanted to be able to express yourself. You wanted to have normal,
Yes.
what we call normal interactions with others.
Yes.
And because you had that desire, you were able to find the thing.
Yes.
You were able to find the thing. And that's important,
Yes.
having that desire.
I think so, absolutely.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I went out of my way to discover the kinds of things that people say to one another in casual conversation, which was so hard for me. You know, I needed good models of people who were comfortable talking to other people and would, meet strangers. And the husband that I have separated from was a very good help to me in the beginning. I was with him for more than 20 years. That was one of his defining features. He was a very friendly man, so he talked to everyone, so he was a good model. And I think that was another thing, to practice talking with people and then becoming a teacher and interacting with students and giving lectures about things that I cared about. It mattered a lot to be prepared. It was like I was rehearsing for regular life.
Rehearsing for regular life.
Yes, finding ways to say things that would open up friendly conversation, finding ways not to run away when someone asked me questions, things like that.
Dr. Vosmik, you have shared with us an amazing story. And I'm so grateful that you were able to find your way from silence to success.
Thank you.
We're going to come back in just a moment and hear more from Dr. Vosmik. We are back with Dr. Jordan Vosmik. Dr. Vosmik, tell our audience, what's next for Jordan Vosmik?
Well, it's hard to say, because the school that I've been leading for 5 years, and I've had many roles here, so I've been here for 10 years, is closing. And so that's a big part of what I'm doing, is shepherding students and faculty through the process of closing. And I will be done with that at the end of January next year. And I will have to think about once again going out into the world and finding something new. But I know that I can handle it. I have a sense now that it's not such a scary process to have things be up in the air. I had one other experience that was very formative to me. In 2008, we discovered that my mother had a brain tumor. And it was large but benign. And she had to have an emergency surgery that was very sudden. She worked as a nurse midwife here in Jacksonville, delivered thousands of babies over the year at St. Vincent's Hospital. And all of a sudden she couldn't work. And brain surgery is not a simple thing, and there's a lot of recovery. So at the time, I was living in New Jersey in my first professorship job. I was a tenure-track professor at a little liberal arts school up there. But this situation came upon me, and it was, all of the family came rushing to the hospital. And we were all together with my mother in there for about a week. But then everyone started leaving.
Oh, they all went back to their lives.
Yes, with no particular discussion about it. But I realized I was the last man standing and that someone had to take her home.
Mm. Mm.
So